When burnout is the fuel for your pain, what do you do? Dr. Clifton Brady went from contractor to chiropractor to health coach, from grief over losing a brother to building frameworks that help people heal from the inside out. If you've got pain, anxiety, or just feel like you're always running on empty, this one's for you. I'm Dr. Tammy Penhollow, a regenerative pain specialist at Precision Regenerative Medicine in Scottsdale, Arizona. Let's get started. Dr. Brady, welcome. I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
Oh, me too. I'm grateful to be here together. I'm from Arizona, so I have a little bit of a kinship with you, and I'm excited for this conversation.
Wonderful. Can you give people a little bit of an idea why they should even stay on this podcast, why they should listen to you, get a little bit of your story, and then we'll dive into some questions.
Yeah, just real quick. I grew up in a home where families were really struggling. I lost a brother to suicide. My dad died from stress that ended up killing him, and I figured there's got to be an answer. I mean, people are losing weight. People are finding ways to stay married. Why can't we stay happy? Because we're not sad all the time or mad or angry or depressed. So there had to be an answer. And I hope people stick around to find out what we found and what you could do on your own. Even if you don't choose not to work with either of us, you can do stuff on your own.
Absolutely. I like to give that framework of a DIY. So many people are searching on the internet and particularly on YouTube about what can I do fors. And I think this is so empowering because that puts the agency right back on the person. So I think I'll even start with that. Many people feel isolated, depressed, anxious, and stuck in a cycle of suffering when they have chronic pain. From your experience, what are those first few and very pivotal things people can do? And we can dive into the sleep, nutrition, mindset, but just what can a person do?
Well, get rid of your inflammation quickly because there's such a thing as having a brain on fire. I think there's even books about that. One quick story. I was actually invited to a meeting at a local library where I think there was 12 people, 12 families represented there of kids that had died that year from suicide. So it was really tender, as you can imagine. And to no fault of their own, when it went around to introduce themselves, they all told the suicide story. And I'm just like, okay, I'm never coming back because I didn't go away excited about life, hopeful. I went away as if maybe I should do that. Not really, but I mean, it was just really bad. But what was interesting is I think there's one story that if they would have gone longer, they would have talked about this. But the rest of them, all of the 11 others said, yeah, they were upstairs and they were feeling sick, or I left them at home because they were feeling sick, or they were having bad allergies that time of year and they had to get away from, like, there was something having to do with their immune system, with inflammation, with an injury. We could talk about concussion, maybe not today, but that's a big deal. There was some kind of inflammatory problem. And then I was combining that with my experience of helping maybe only a couple thousand people at that time. Now I've helped over 6,000. But I was noticing that correlation that they were, if they weren't doing as well as I wanted them to do on my protocols, where was their inflammation?
Right.
Candida
So
or full-on vaccines. So this is not about vaccines today, but there's things that can increase a response in the body, and sometimes it's not a good thing for the brain. And so inflammation is the biggest thing. So I call it the three white devils: white flour, white sugar, and sometimes, in almost every case, milk, because it's so processed. If you get it from a cow and you don't process it, you're probably just fine. But where are you going to do that? So those three white devils are literally causing havoc in our world, and we have to get rid of it or stay away from it as much as we can.
Okay. So inflammation as the big bad guy. And then there are different, I guess, little worker bees that are perpetuating that in our diet. We also have things like sleep. I know you talk about sleep and restoration. So how important is that for the daily reset?
Oh, it's critical. Absolutely critical. There was a study done, and I can't reference it. I should have looked it up before I came, but if people are in pain and not sleeping for 2 weeks, their suicide rate is off the charts because they're in pain all the time. And that's bad, obviously. But if they can't sleep, they can never escape from it. And if they can't escape from the pain, then there's only one option, they think, and that is to end it. And so sleep is not only good for their mental health, but it is an escape. The body can renew itself, regenerate. I think it's interesting that we call it breaking the fast. We need to fast and let our body's glucose levels reset. I mean, there's a million different, if you don't know how good sleep is, then they're probably sleeping under a rock and should probably do some research. You got to get quality of sleep before 12 o'clock is also important. There were some studies said that if you get 1 hour of sleep before midnight, that's equal to 3 hours. I don't know how true that is, but try it and see how much more refreshed you are when you go to bed at 10 instead of 11 or 9 instead of 12. It's crazy how much better your sleep can be and how much better you feel the next day.
I'm definitely going to dive into that. I'm in bed by 9, so I'm trying to get 3 good quality hours of sleep before midnight. So wonderful. Another thing that you have spoken about as well as written about is micronutrients and mental health. Which nutrients or supplements do you believe make the biggest difference for anxiety, depression, especially when chronic pain is also present?
Okay. Well, I am biased. There's a formula that I found it was 11 years ago this month. And I had a brother that committed suicide. I had family members that were depressed and anxiety. And I brought that one formula home. And I won't tell the whole story because that's not the focus today, but it worked really quickly. And I'm like, okay, this is crazy. What about the studies? And there were studies. In fact, 30 studies on bipolar and depression and anxiety and PTSD and OCD and autism and all the things, ODD, all the acronyms. I'm like, okay, why? What is the secret sauce? And come to find out the secret sauce, and you can try this on your own. Good luck finding something, frankly, because the recipe was more important than they actually realized. But the secret sauce was the minerals. When the brain got minerals to the brain, it just uploaded and turned on the brain. You could go from literally depressed to feeling happy within minutes if it's absorbable, if it's the right recipe, and it's taken at the right amount. And so what they found is, and this is just for the sake of people trying this on their own, when they were off by 5% with the recipe, it completely stopped working. So they found out that was critical. And then they found out, well, we need to make sure it absorbs. So you need to make sure it's chelated. But most chelation is only like 5 hours or so. The one that I'm using is for 4 days, 96 hours. So driving it into the brain, making sure it's there. Now, there's a lot of other nutrition around that surrounds that secret sauce. That's super helpful. Lower amounts of lithium. Orotate is great. Vitamin K is great. Of course, all the A, B's, and C's. And D's, like all of those things are helpful. And you can find studies individually with all of those different products. But that's the problem, is we're doing blood work to try to find out what we're low on. And then we increase that to nutrient. And it's a crapshoot, frankly. Some people feel better. Most people don't. And then they go do another blood work. And then they go find another doctor. And it's ridiculous. We're chasing our tail when we just need to get the right amounts at the right time and the right dose. And frankly, working with someone, you can try it on your own. And the only what won't replace AI is going to replace a lot of things, but it's not going to replace experience and the heart. Because sometimes there's something, the gut feeling is not in AI. And our gut feeling says, have you tried sleeping? Well, we just talked about that. Have you tried reading your Bible? Like there's some things that they're intangibles that you can't even imagine. I could talk all day long about taking blood work and stuff, and it is beneficial for some things for sure, but I haven't found it helpful in my world.
Okay. Thank you for diving into that part. And as you're speaking, I'm thinking, yes, I've just done something on vitamin D. And oh, yes, I just heard about possibly low dose lithium and Alzheimer's. And all these things are out there. But it comes to the point where you want somebody that can personalize it for you, because you're a totally different being from structure to chemical to everything than the person sitting next to you. Even if you're a twin, you're likely to have some differences. So that is so important. We are going to talk about some of the things you can do. You can get sleep. You can 3 white devils. You can do these things. But when we're talking about tiny little changes in micronutrients, that's when I say seek the professional advice. Find somebody that is competent and has seen thousands of people and has the studies to back it up. It's not just something they read on the back of their bubblegum label, right? I mean, just this is for real.
Absolutely.
You hinted on this, and I'd like to kind of shift into the role of connectedness, and community. People in chronic pain, people with mood disorders, or they're anxious, they're depressed, they often are very secluded or feel very secluded, whether they are or not. It's their perception of seclusion. What is something that you start patients on to help rebuild community and rebuild connection? And how do you see that specifically increase their overall well-being?
Thank you I'm glad you asked that question. Let's go back to I need to name my stud, make sure I can reference exact studies, but think about, everybody knows this. If you don't hug a baby when they're born or have some kind of affection or connection, they will die. I think it was Romania where my cousins were. Yeah, they're from Romania. They were adopted. And I learned way back in the 1990s that they were doing a lot of connection and touching of the babies because they were finding that they were just dying in droves. Even though they were fed and they were warm and they were comfortable, they were dying. It's because they just didn't have the touch. And so connecting there's a huge variety. Like, so right now my feet are in the grass. I have an opportunity to connect with nature. I'm around the sunlight all day long and the trees. Connecting can mean a lot of different things. So nature connection. I have cousins that really struggle with depression and they don't do what I ask them to do. The only time that they're happy is when they're exercising. And I think it's more than just getting blood to the brain, which is important. They're around people and they're having conversation and their feet are, like my feet in the ground connected that way, but they are breathing oxygen and they're running out in nature. So that kind of connection is important. I think it's interesting also that the vast majority, if you look it up, vast majority of suicides are in spring and summer. And you're like, what the heck? How come that's spring and summer? You'd think that it would be during the winter time when it's dark and when there's not sunlight and stuff. Of course, there are people that have seasonal depressive disorder, for sure. But in the wintertime, there's more opportunity there. Well, we're kind of forced to be inside and forced to be around more people. And I think my theory is there's more connection. And my other theory is in the springtime we get it and we start exercising, we have more allergies, we have more inflammation. And I again, it's just my theory, but there's some correlation there. Being connected to people, having real conversation, not keeping it light and fluffy all the time. My favorite thing to connect with people is I bump into someone at church or I'm walking in an aisle or something and I see someone I know. Say, hey, how you doing? And what they say, fine. How are you really doing? What's going on? For me, I'm a Christian, so I'm like, what's the Lord teaching you? What's new in your life? What's he trying to tell you? What's the Spirit sharing with you? And they're like, nothing. Then they're like, no, because everybody has something going on in their life. If you treat them as if there's something seriously wrong in their life, you're probably right most of the time. And so I love to just dig that up and let them know I'm actually looking at you. I actually care about how you're doing. And I care enough to ask you 2, maybe 3 or 4 times what's going on. And it's crazy. I asked this to a guy one time walking in church. He goes, no, nothing. No, nothing. And finally he goes, well, I almost died this week. I had heart surgery. And my son, this is when I lived in Tennessee at the time, my son just flew out yesterday to Utah to go through drug rehab. He tried to take his life and he's addicted to drugs. And I'm like, okay, so nothing's going wrong in your life. And he was crying. We gave each other a big hug and it was an awesome experience. Boy, we all need that. I need that. You need that. And the person that you're bumping into in the line, get off your bleepity bleep phone, look up and talk to someone. Say hi. Tell them the beautiful smile. They have a beautiful smile. What they're wearing. Tattoos are an open opportunity to say, what does that mean? That looks really cool. But we're just screaming for people to pay attention to us, and we're doing it in all the wrong ways. But boy, if we just take a moment to connect, it can change our life. My son, boy, I'm emotional on this one. He was at a football game, and he bumped into a kid that was listening to something. Hey, what are you listening to? Or what are you thinking about right now? I say it to myself all the time. What are you thinking about right now? He goes, Dad? He's like, okay. And then he just started talking to him, and he loves cars. And so he's showing us stuff on his car, on his phone about cars. And he goes, why are you talking to me? I'm from the other school. Like I'm the enemy, at this football game. He goes, I homeschool. No one's my enemy. And so they just had and we don't know. We don't know if he was really seriously thinking about death or something worse than that. He made a connection. And that's all that matters, is making those connections. So yeah, I'm kind of excited about connection.
I can't understate. I cannot overstate. I mean, it is the thing. And we've had another guest on the show. He's an orthopedic surgeon, and he is all about vitality. And one of the neatest connection pieces he does is a 90-second challenge. And you do use the phone, but it's merely to pick 3 people in 90 seconds. And you write a text message that just says, "Hey, I'm thinking about, you need to respond back. You matter. I remember XYZ," and just kind of something that brought a smile to my face. Have a beautiful day. And sending it out may absolutely make somebody's day, turn that person around, but it's a connection using the current technology that we have. But you don't know how impactful that little reach out might be to somebody with zero expectation that they're going to have to reciprocate or get right back to you or pick up the phone and call you. That's not what it's about. It's merely to say, "I'm here. I'm your person."
Yeah, Bob Bodine has a text like that, and he teaches it in his book, The 2 Chairs, or The Power of Who. I can't remember which book, but he does that, and then at the end he says, "I love you." That is one of the most uncomfortable things to do. If I'm sending it to another woman, it better be the right kind of relationship, because I don't want that misconstrued. Especially if I'm sending it to a guy, because I'm not gay. There's just that feeling of going, okay, how are they going to take this? I've done it to 30, 40, 50, I can't remember how many people now, not quite 100 yet. And all the time, they're like, "Wow, thank you so much. I love you too, man." Like, it's crazy. So add that "I love you" to it. There's something amazing that happens with that. And also connection. Sorry, my mind's going all over the place. You said you're ADD too, so here we go. But they looked in Detroit, I think is where this study was from, and they found that there was certain people that were just crazy successful, but yet everybody else they knew in high school was not. In fact, they were not only not successful, they were in the gutters kind of thing, just no home, no drugs, and all that kind of thing. And they found out that every one of the successful people had someone that believed in them, basically. It was an aunt, an uncle, a grandma, a shop owner down the street. And so we can be that person for the youth, or it doesn't even have to be youth, just someone to believe in us. And again, another type of connection. So when you think of someone like sending a text out, some of them are going to really enjoy that. Well, go with that energy. Maybe you need to do more together than just have a text. Maybe you need to go to lunch. Maybe you're going to co-write a book together. Like, there's really cool things that can happen.
Absolutely. Oh, I like that. And you've dribbled some success stories all the way through on this. Is there somebody who had burnout, somebody that had anxiety, somebody that had serious chronic pain? Mobility and energy can be limiting. Can you share some success story?
Well, I'll tell you about my mom and Reverend Blake. He doesn't mind me saying his name, but my mom was, are we back? We lost each other for a second. Okay. So I'm going to tell you about my mom and a friend, Blake, and I won't say his last name, but he wouldn't mind me sharing. But he was a pastor in his faith. And so let me tell you about him first. So he was 17, I think, and he had this horrible depressive episode. Everybody prayed around him, prayed like hands on him, praying and everything, and it was gone. And he's like, "Okay, I'm going to be a pastor. This is awesome. We can heal people through prayer." And it was helpful for him for several years. And then he got to around 35 years old, and there was a tornado that came through, and it just was so devastating and so shocking. PTSD is probably what we'll call it. And for 4 years after that, he was just hell every day. Didn't want to get up, didn't want to go anywhere. He got to the point where he had the note, he had the gun, he had the time, everything was set. And I knew someone, because I used to be in Tennessee, I used to practice there, and I knew someone who knew someone who knew someone who knew someone. Again, connections. And I call up his mom, and she says, "Yeah, I would love for you to talk to my son." I start helping him with these micronutrients, and this is where pain and inflammation comes in and everything. And that first night, he felt like $1 million. Like, holy cow, what is this? The next day, nothing. Next day, nothing. Next day, nothing. For 2 months, nothing. He had this brief moment. He knew where the gun was. He knew where the note was. And he gets to this moment, and God says to him, Let Dr. Brady have more time. Like, no, don't do that to me. I do not want that responsibility. I am not trained for suicide. I don't have the responsible legalities, nothing. I just help people. They're happy. Well, during that same week, I love how God works. My mom gets bit by a cat. Now, before this moment, she was my hell and damn mom. Like, she was mad at everybody. Everybody was upset. Yeah, she just was not a happy person to be around. Not alcoholic or anything abusive or anything, but I just did not enjoy the negativity. Well, she was doing amazing on my protocol, and she gets bit by a cat one day. Well, it was so bad that she almost lost her hand. That's how bad it was. And so she did everything but medication. And I'm like, Mom, I think you need to get some help. So she went to the doctor, saved her hand. And by the time the drugs were in her system, the antibiotics and everything, and her hand was feeling better, the pain was going away, she snapped out of it. So she went crazy for a moment and then snapped back out, and she was happy. I'm like, oh, shoot, Blake, where is your inflammation? Well, come to find out, it was candida. He was eating perfect. He was exercising perfect. He was doing all the things, but the candida was just underlying in his system. And I don't know how much you bump into candida, Tammy, but if they're not healing quickly enough in our protocols, candida is just one of those silent killers that you don't know where it is unless they say, oh, I have a yeast infection, with i.e. ladies, or there's itchy skin or something. You don't really know, because he didn't know, because he was putting the medication on and he didn't know. So I sent him out some stuff, some herbs of all things, fixed his candida, and bam, he said he's sad and anxiety and depression free for now. It's been 10 years. And so the combination of pain, inflammation, getting him out of pain will automatically help their outlook on life for sure, because the inflammation's low, but also because it's like, oh, but I'm not going to be chronically ill the rest of my life. And that's, I mean, bless your heart, you go through a lot of that with people, I'm sure, where they're just like, I'm going to be this way forever. And we just have to talk them out of the tree and say, no, you're not going to be that way forever. Maybe you're going to have pain for a long time. We don't, because sometimes people are really bad, but it doesn't have to be forever for everybody. And so most people, there is a chance, and we can help them that way.
So one underlying theme is root cause, that getting to the root of the inflammation. And oftentimes people in traditional training don't learn so much about the molds and the yeasts. Yes, we know there are such things, but oftentimes that is the root. So I love that you've actually dived into that, and the light bulb moment happened and just happened to correspond with the fact that you were listening. You were heavily involved with your mom, and this was probably percolating in your brain the whole time about Blake, and there was your aha moment.
Absolutely. When I've identified over the last 11 years, I've helped 6,000 people in 40 states, multiple countries. I speak Spanish. I also jokingly say I speak Canadian too, but I can help people almost all the way around the world if they speak English or Spanish. And I've identified about 40 different things that can be a root cause to their problem. And so that can get complicated. Absolutely. But again, listen to your gut. If you're thinking, oh, I need to go talk to so-and-so, why? Well, maybe it's because they have an answer for you. Maybe they did watch that YouTube from Tammy that taught them exactly what to do. So follow your gut. That's the number one thing I would say. Follow your instinct, and then get knowledge and information at the same time. And somewhere in the middle, you're going to find your answer. And maybe it's not the answer, but it's just the next piece to the next puzzle. And frankly, I feel like life is supposed to be sometimes hard for us to learn a lesson that we would not have learned any other way. So try to count that problem as a blessing. I love Marcus Aurelius. He says, what stands in the way becomes the way. And there's a lot of ancient traditions that say once the dragon was killed, they took the carcass and created their worlds. Holy cow. And it's in every tradition, in every Chinese, Australia, all around the world, they have the same exact story. Kill the dragon, create your world. And so Marcus Aurelius was brilliant when he said that.
Completely agree. That's fantastic. What I think a lot of people don't know about, because I haven't introduced that yet, but you're writing a book and it's on burnout. And that's how we actually were introduced, because you reached out to me and said, I'm writing this book. Would you maybe have a little bit of time to talk about burnout? And I said, I don't have burnout. So can
right?
you kind of, what do you think is the impetus behind writing this? What story are you trying to tell? And then is there a specific chapter or a specific message that you think is going to kind of turn some people upside down and go,
Yes, I do. And thank you for asking. That's a fun question. First of all, this whole book started because I had a fire in my practice and the passing of my brother and my dad, and then my other family members not living full lives. So here's this challenge of health and mental health. And here's this problem. I show up to my practice and there's sirens and police cars and fire trucks. It wasn't a big problem, but because of insurance and all that garbage, I couldn't practice for 2 months. And as a chiropractor, that's a problem. You have to have your hands on people to do what we do. And but part of my practice was also supplements and helping people with nutritional protocols. Functional medicine is a very popular name now. That's what I was doing back then. I still do. Well, I broke free from the typical practice. I wasn't burned out, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't excited about being in an office. Obviously, I love outdoors, and I didn't think about that when I became a chiropractor. I'm like, I'm going to be in a box with horrible lighting every day, all day long, unless I get really rich and have windows everywhere and I'm on the beach of California or something like that, which I didn't want to do that either. I broke free, and I wanted to help other people break free too, because not everybody wants to be in an office. Not everybody wants to deal with insurance. Some people, well, actually, I haven't met one person that loves insurance, but they're dealing with it. And so the book is to help people. It's called Your Freedom Formula, because I don't know exactly what the formula is for the other person to be free, but I know the principles and the keys that you can use to unlock that freedom and to help them not have to be in a society or in a system that's just chewing people up and spitting them out. I mean, you have to, if you see people for 13 minutes, they're like, oh, well, can you do it in 12? Can you do it in 11? Can you do it in 10? Can you do it in 7? And it's like, okay, where's the money bottom line? And the people are suffering. It's interesting. We call them patients and we're practicing on them. And the irony of, did we talk about this last time about diagnosis? It's the funniest thing ever. So
no,
let's just take the word diagnosis and separate it. Di means two, a means not, gnosis means knowing. Two people not knowing anything. That's perfect, the doctor and the patient. Now, of course, hopefully we're the knowing part of that part. So I don't give diagnoses because hopefully I know what I'm doing. But it's crazy what kind of system we're in. I'm glad we have it. It does save some lives, but also it kills some people. And that's what happened to my dad. It was a successful surgery that killed my dad. And I'm not mad or angry. I forgive them, but it's sad. I want my dad back. And so what we can do, there's so many other things we can do outside of medicine, outside of insurance, outside of these things. And that's what I'm trying to accomplish, is help people find that joy outside of licensure. And it's not for everybody. Most people are going to keep their license. Most people want to keep working in the system, and that's totally fine. But if they don't want to, then we need to talk.
I love that. Thank you. Is there anything, what's
Well, you
that?
asked about what would surprise people. Maybe I already
Yeah.
did. So the biggest surprise in my book is to talk about licensing.
Okay.
So people are, if they're not happy, what do we do? Well, let's go back to school. Or if we've already done schooling, let's get another certificate. It's going to be better over there than it is right now. Well, the problem is we found the enemy. It's us. We take ourselves with every certification and every extra license that we get, and we get deeper in the system that some people really are not happy with. And so they go, well, I'd just rather work at Target. That's the funniest thing. Everybody chooses Target or Starbucks. I'd rather do Target or something. Yeah, that's right. You said that. That's right. And so that's the biggest shocker, is that doing more licensing and more certification is not going to make them happier. It's going to get them deeper in the system. So I got totally out of the system. I'm not licensed anymore. And they're like, oh, well, I can't. How can I believe anything you say, Clifton? You mean my license defines me? Watch the King's speech, where the king learned how to talk from a guy who wasn't licensed, had no education, no documentation, no nothing, and he helped that king of England talk. So having a license doesn't make you smart. It means that you're compliant, and that's great. We need to be compliant and we need to be safe. But there's a lot of things we can do that are safe, legal, ethical, and moral that we can help people. So that's the biggest moment that I found as I'm interviewing people is they're too afraid to get rid of that license that's killing them. And if they'd let go of the license, they'd be free to help anyone, anywhere, as long as they're not doing medicine anymore, of course. They can help people across borders, across countries, all around the world. And we need more of that.
I completely agree that the need is there. So cut the albatross, right? Cut the albatross across your neck. Oh my goodness. Wow. Anything that we've not touched upon that you're like, oh, I so want to get this message out. Anything that you'd like to leave with the viewers?
Well, there is a scripture that I love that I'll quickly share, and just hopefully it helps someone out there. It says, if you ask, you shall receive revelation upon revelation, knowledge upon knowledge. And I'll just stop there. But I feel like there's times, going back to that gut feeling, where we're like, oh, I'm supposed to call so-and-so. And then you just jump on the phone and call someone. Well, what if that wasn't the real answer? It's revelation upon revelation. It's knowledge upon knowledge. It's line upon line. And so there's many times I feel like I'm feeling inspired to do something. I close the book and jump out and go do it. And I feel like God's going, oh, I had so much more to share with you. Why didn't you ask me more? Because it's asking you shall receive. It's not asking you shall receive and you're done. There's, again, you lose a job and you feel like it's the worst thing ever. And you find out, oh my gosh, I was so lucky to lose that job. Now it feels good. Or you're dating someone, you're like, love of my life. And then you find the real love of your life. So just realize that it's not the first answer. It's going to be the next and the next. And that's where I go back to that Bob Beaudine book. I'm really enjoying his book, The Two Chairs, because it talks about you get 1 minute, God gets 4. And listen, we are not listening. We're not listening to God. We're not listening to each other. We can have great conversations with anyone as long as we love them or we're willing to change. But we don't love each other. We're not willing to change. So don't talk about it. But that's my final message is listen. Close your eyes, maybe. Close your ear. What am I trying to say? Open your heart and listen more and stop talking. And frankly, and I need to do this too, but stop entertaining myself so much. Again, put the phone down, look up, and listen. And that's where you're going to get the answer. And that's where you're going to be led to Tammy. You're going to be led to her work. You're going to be led to be able to get rid of the pain for the first time in your life. And then have some things to be able to live a long, healthy, happy life. And then you have a chance to serve others. And that's the biggest thing. So we can love others more because we feel solid and whole and free to be able to do whatever we're meant to do. There's a lot more capacity in us than we possibly can imagine. And it's just waiting to be unlocked, to be unleashed, and to be free. So it's there. It's there for the taking. Just have to pay attention.
That is so inspiring. I'm not even going to say more to top that. There's nothing to top. Thank you so much, Dr. Clifton Brady, for sharing your story, your strategies, and the painful mix of this burnout, anxiety, depression, and chronic pain. If this episode resonates with you, do not forget to subscribe. Please like and share so you will never miss another episode. I'd like Dr. Brady to say how you can find him. You can find us. We will put everything down in the show notes, but please do share how people can work with you.
Probably through LinkedIn is the best way. Dr. Clifton Brady with 2 F's, Cliffton, Brady. And then just private message me and we can have a conversation and see if it makes sense to talk. I don't charge for my time. It's for my brother. I've chosen not to charge for any of my consultations. If there is any fee, it's because I'm sending you something that will help you and change your life forever, hopefully. And I won't send it to you unless I think it'll help. So yeah, find me on LinkedIn. If you don't have a LinkedIn account, then I don't know what you can do because I try to keep Facebook and everything else private. But if you find me through there, that's fine. You can go ahead and send me a message, but LinkedIn would be best.
Wonderful. We will put your LinkedIn link in the show notes. And again, thank you so much for sharing with us. My heart feels lighter and I feel like we've given some very actionable things, but if anything, just this connection with the community and with each other. So thank you again. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you too. Thank you so much, Tammy.
If you have knee pain and would like to learn more, I have a worksheet called 5 Things to Do Now to Reduce Your Knee Pain Within a Week. Go to www.kneeboostnow.com to download it for free. I'd love to hear from you, so please like, subscribe, and comment below so I can help you get out of your knee pain.